Postseason, I think teams would rather face quarterbacks like Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, guys like that, rather than seeing Tom Brady come to town.
That could be a very interesting finish here. The next one, I want to ask you about Justin Fields. He's been so spectacular the last month or so. Can he keep playing the style that he is playing right now?
I think he can, because it's something that I think translates over time, and we've seen it before. And the guy we've seen it from is Cam Newton. I think that there are certain traits you see Justin Fields just as a football player, if you will, as a guy that, look, if backyard football breaks down and I'm just a better runner than you are a tackler. I think that we've seen that. I think we're going to continue to see it, and I think we'll see more design runs out of Chicago to help make that happen.
All right, we'll talk more about that. Meanwhile, what happened to Aaron Rodgers this season?
Yeah, I don't know how you could have seen this coming. I've talked a lot about Aaron's dominance in the NFL over the last 4 years. I would have never have thought losing Devontae Adams would cause this much trouble in Green Bay. I thought Aaron would kind of elevate the play of everybody around him. They haven't found consistent receiver play to help him. It still is a dependent position. Yes, Christian Watson is coming on right now, but it's been a struggle. Maybe Aaron's thumb is a bigger issue than we really realize.
Now, he hurt it back in that London game against the Giants at the very end, and frankly has not looked like himself since. Rodgers was on his regular appearance with Pat McAfee yesterday talking about his future. Listen to this.
To sit here and say, oh, no, it's all ball all the time and blah, 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 bullshit. I don't know. That's not the way I am. There's life after football. It's been an awesome run. I'm really proud of what I've accomplished. I'm not looking forward to the end, and I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be after the season or after 3 more seasons or whatnot.
Okay, so, Neek, he's not going to make this easy for them, right? What if the Packers season is over, and let's say realistically with one more loss it will be, then what they need is to know whether their future does or does not include Aaron Rodgers. And from that soundbite, it seems clear to me they are not going to know anytime soon.
Yeah, I think that Aaron's going to be back. I think that he's being honest, as he's been all season with Pat McAfee. I think we're not accustomed to hearing it, but no quarterback is football all their life, all the time. Aaron Rodgers may be on the kind of far end of that distribution where he wants to get away a little more than most quarterbacks, but he's been the same his whole career, and he's coming off of back-to-back MVP seasons. I think we're reaching if we're trying to make this feel like the end of anything for Aaron or the end of anything for the Packers. They still have a pretty strong roster, and this season for sure is over, but I think that they have a chance next year bringing back a bunch of these players if they can address their issues on defense, and if Aaron Rodgers can play at a high level and is fully healthy, they have another chance next year to make a deep run.
Well, but in the absence, Chris Canty, of any certainty regarding Aaron's future, you just heard him say, I don't know when it's going to be. Maybe it'll be after this season. Do they need at some point this year to put the first-round pick, Jordan Love, on the field and see what he can do? In the absence of certainty with Rodgers, do they have to find a way to do that?
Yeah, they should absolutely put Jordan Love on the field after the bye week to give him 4 games to see what he can do. But, independent of what we learned from Jordan Love, I think this should be Aaron Rodgers' last season in Green Bay, because it's clear that this team is much closer to a rebuild than they are an actual title. And I'm not paying a 39-year-old quarterback $50 million a year to miss the playoffs. The reality is that this team is grossly underachieving, and it's not because of the young wide receivers and the lack of development. This is a team that lacks leadership, and now it's fair to question if there is a relationship issue between Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers, and can the organization work past that friction? So when I look at this situation, I understand the salary cap constraints, but here's the deal. The Philadelphia Eagles moved on from Carson Wentz, ate $34 million and made the playoffs in the same season. The Los Angeles Rams moved on from Jared Goff, ate $25 million and won the Super Bowl. I understand it's an ugly cap hit. It's a $40 million cap hit if you trade Aaron Rodgers before June 1. But I think that's the only path for the organization to move forward. It's time to reset. They started down that road of replacing Aaron Rodgers. They need to rip the Band-Aid off this offseason.
Ooh, what do you think of that? And Tim, I'll get to you in a second, but Neek, I know. Go ahead.
I mean, they're close to a rebuild. The roster is pretty good. I think that the way that they've executed this year has been embarrassing, but I do think that when Bakhtiari's there, their offensive line is strong. Alexander's one of the best corners in the league. They have two of the best running backs in the league. They have Aaron Rodgers, when healthy, is amongst the best quarterbacks of all time. Rashard Gary is coming on. He's better than I think anybody expected, considering what he produced in college. This team is good. And with Christian Watson showing up and figuring out how to play, Lazard is still an active threat. Like, this is not a team without talent. Addressing the motivation or the game plan or all that stuff or leadership or whatever, you can use the whole offseason or rest of this season to do that. But to suggest that they're closer to a rebuild than anything else seems wild to me. And those teams that you mentioned moved on from quarterbacks that, like, had question marks, I guess. They didn't move on from future Hall of Famers. They moved on from Carson Wentz and Jared Goff.
All right, I need to come back to this for sure. Timmy, let me get you in here on this little dispute that we have, and then we will set aside some more time to get back to this. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, listen, my first thing is someone needs to check on Rob Domofsky, because honestly, his offseason just got ruined as soon as Aaron Rodgers said that. Like, that was my first reaction, was like, oh man, he's ruined. Anyway, look, I agree with Nick on this. People need to understand, okay, this has been a bad year. How good has Aaron been? It's been remarkable. Take this season, remove this season. The previous 4 seasons, Aaron Rodgers threw like 135 touchdowns and like 15 picks. It's been absolutely absurd the way he's dominated the National Football League. So one bad year, you know, I don't think you go, hey, all of a sudden we're going to treat him like Carson Wentz. We're going to treat him like Jared Goff. And I believe this, with everything that Aaron is saying, I don't think he wants to go out with this type of taste in his mouth.
This Packers season, plus the committee speaks, will tell you the one scenario they left wide open that could throw absolutely everything into chaos. We've got all that and more as we get up with you starting right now on this day before Thanksgiving. Heather Dinich is here, which means someone is back at her house cooking like crazy right now. Meantime, because I'm in constant contact with our Jets reporters. If there's any news on Zach Wilson, I promise you will get it here immediately. And look at the squad we put together to talk everything through. We got Dominique. We got the big fella Chris Canty. We got Tim Hasselbeck is back, and Paul Feinbaum is here to break down what the committee did last night. Let's begin with the Thanksgiving showdown in Dallas tomorrow. Cowboys, traditional hosts. They will take on the G-Men. Dallas, pass rush, dominant. They get pressure on 40% of their dropbacks. That's the best by any team through 10 games since we started tracking that in 2009. On the offensive side, Cowboys have been among the league's best since Dak came back. Top 5 in points, yards per play, and third down rate. And now, Dak facing a Giants team that he has historically dominated. Dak Prescott has reeled off 9 straight wins over the G-Man, posting a QBR of 79, 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Here was Dak with reporters looking ahead to the game.
But Jerry said after the game that performance convinces him that you guys are Super Bowl contenders. What do you think when you hear the owner of the team talking like that?
I mean, I was convinced before. Yeah, I mean, he tells you guys a lot of things. I'm not going to get caught up on one of his statements. As I said, we laid a brick last week, a pretty good one, but we've got to turn the page from that and make sure that we do that again this Thursday and just continue to progress.
Okay, so Caesars says Dallas is a 9.5-point favorite on this Thanksgiving Day. Dallas 1-10 against the spread the last 11 Thanksgivings, including losing outright as a favorite on Thanksgiving each of the last 3 years, which would suggest that an upset, perhaps even a stunning one, could be in the offing, but there's no way anyone on this panel is going to be crazy enough or brilliant enough to foresee that. Is there? Let's call that foreshadowing. Kalen, put the picks up on the screen. I want everyone to see that Chris Canty is picking the Giants in what would be a stunning upset. Chris Canty, take us through it. How are the G-Men going to knock off the Cowboys tomorrow?
Well, gee, it's not complicated. There's only one path to victory for the Giants, and that's running the football. We saw the blueprint laid out by the Green Bay Packers a couple of weeks in Lambeau. You come out in big people, and you force those fast, twitch, athletic guys for the Dallas Cowboys defensive front to play the run 40-plus times. If you look at the New York Giants following their 2 previous losses, They've run the ball 47 times and 44 times, respectively, with Saquon Barkley getting 30 rush attempts in each of those games. So I anticipate that's the Giants' formula for success. And you hear the comments from Brian Daboll. They don't want to get behind schedule on offense. It's going to be Saquon, Saquon, Saquon. Try to keep the game in manageable situations for Daniel Jones, but the run game will be the engine for the New York Giants being able to pull off the upset on Thanksgiving Day.
How do you like it, Neek? We lost Neek? He can't believe it. Dominique is so stunned by Chris Canty's picks that his signal went down. Chris has absolutely knocked everybody out. Let me go to Tim. Look at him. Actually, that's a pretty cool look. He looks like a music.